Now, a group of senior UK lawyers on an unofficial tribunal investigating China's treatment of the Uyghur minority group has concluded that Beijing is committing genocide and crimes against humanity. The tribunal details systematic human rights abuses, including forced labour, torture and religious destruction against the Uyghurs in Xinjiang province. This is the tribunal chair, Sir Geoffrey Nice.
On the basis of evidence heard in public, the tribunal is satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the PRC, by the imposition of measures to prevent births intended to destroy a significant part of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, as such, has committed genocide.
This tribunal is made up of lawyers and business people and doesn't have any government backing or powers to sanction China. Hearings took place in London in June and September over alleged abuses over 6,000 kilometres away in Xinjiang province. Over 70 witnesses were called. Some of them described shocking details of rapes and assaults. One of the men who gave evidence is an ethnic Kazakh. He was detained in 2017 but is now living in London, and he's been speaking to our diplomatic correspondent, Caroline Hawley.
Қолдағы тыртық көзір сап, қол аяқта көзір бар. Осыны жұдырық салып, соны ұрып, талдырып сол көзді. Сүйреп, ауырғанмен қайтесің енді, ұрып өлтіріп тастаса жақсы еді деп ойлайсың кейде.
This is Irbakit, a first-hand witness of China's oppression of Turkic Muslims in Xinjiang. He's an ethnic Kazakh, one of dozens of former detainees who gave evidence at hearings in London about what they went through. He was arrested in 2017, accused of installing WhatsApp, which is blocked in China, and of watching videos about Islam. The first prison was the worst.
Жерде қол аяғымда кісен бар ғой. 7 килограмм, 98 күн жаттым ғой. Әлімге дейін сол түсіңе кіреді ғой сол жер. Кейде түсіңнен қорқып оянасың. Мен әлі сол жерде жатырмын ба деп.
He says he was once punished for complaining he was hungry and remembers being put in something called a tiger chair.
Оған бір отырғанда 7 күн ең азы. Ең көп 15 күн үстіп отырасың. Соған біз енді шыдамағаннан кейін қарсы тұрғаннан кейін сабайды ғой отырғызып қойып. Жаңағы қара таяғымен. Ол тіп болмағандай әуелі төк таяқпен дырылдатады.
This is where he says he was held before being moved to a re-education camp.
Енді ол жерде сол жаңағы Қытайдың таңертең сол жаңағы жатақтан шыққаннан кейін тізіп алып барады. Класста отырасың, жаңағы класс оқушы мен мұғалімнің ортасында темір немене бар, решеткалап саған. Бірінші класс оқитын жаңағы бастама әліппесін бастап оқытады. Енді айғайлағанға келмейді ол жерде. Біреуді боқтай алмайсың, не айғайламайсың. Әйтеуір сол.
That's the experience of one man who'd been in detention in Xinjiang. He's not alone. Experts tell us 1 million Uyghurs are being held in extrajudicial camps or in prisons, which you can see in these satellite images. The US calls them concentration camps. China calls them re-education camps designed to combat separatism and Islamist militancy. We know the tribunal disagrees with that, so Geoffrey was explicit.
The tribunal is satisfied that President Xi Jinping, Chen Guangguo and other very senior officials in the PRC and CCP bear primary responsibility for acts that have occurred in Xinjiang. The tribunal recognises that the perpetration of individual criminal acts that may have occurred, rape or torture, will not have been carried out with the detailed knowledge of the President and others, but the tribunal is satisfied that they have occurred as a direct result of policies, language and speeches promoted by the President Xi and others. Furthermore, that these policies could not have happened in a country with such rigid hierarchies as the PRC.
Xinjiang is China's biggest region. 12 million Uyghurs live there. That's roughly half the region's population. They speak their own language, which is similar to Turkish, and see themselves as culturally and ethnically close to Central Asian countries. And many fear, in Xinjiang and abroad, that their culture is under threat of being erased. So activists requested this tribunal in London. This is the president of the World Uyghur Congress.
This is very significant. Chinese government has been committed genocide against the Uyghur, Kazakh, other people since 2016. But there is no countries, no international legal justice system held accountable for Chinese crimes. So today's Uyghur Tribunal as an independent judicial body. So this decision very significant. I lost my contact, whole family since 2017. My mother died in the concentration camp. Around me, and a lot of Uyghur community living in the exile, we got horrible news since the last 4 or 5 years. My mother died in concentration camp. My brother sentenced to life, younger brother, older brother sentenced 24 years. So this is my story is not unique. Most of them Uyghur who live in exile have the same situation. So mass killing may already be happening, but we don't know.
Well, the tribunal didn't find a case for mass killings. However, it did find a case for diminishing the Uyghur population. Here's Sir Geoffrey again.
And the only basis upon which genocide could be proved, the tribunal decided, and that it was satisfied beyond reasonable doubt, was proved, was in respect of preventing Uyghur women to have children, to have babies. And it was clear that that was both the intention of the PRC, the People's Republic of China, and the Communist Party. Intention was to force women not to have babies, which they did by forcing them to have irremovable or effectively irremovable intrauterine devices, by having abortions, by having their wombs removed, whether they liked it or not. And so that's the basis upon which genocide was found in this tribunal, and it hasn't been found on that basis before.
Well, the Chinese government denies all accusations of abuses in Xinjiang. The Chinese embassy in London has issued this statement saying the remarks by that person are nothing but a pack of lies. It's the latest example of the attempt to deliberately slander China's policy on Xinjiang and wantonly interfere in China's internal affairs. The political, economic and social rights and freedom of religious belief of all ethnic groups in the region are fully guaranteed, it added. Now, while this tribunal doesn't have any power of enforcement, it still has significance on the international stage, as Caroline Hawley explains.
I think it does have some moral authority in the sense that Sir Geoffrey Nice is a serious character. He led the prosecution of Slobodan Milosevic, and he has heard a lot of evidence. They didn't find a determination of genocide on the basis of mass killings. And there is a lot of debate about the definition of genocide in this context. Human rights groups, for example, like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have said that there are crimes against humanity being committed, but have stopped short of calling it a genocide. Now, what Sir Geoffrey Nice has done here is said that he has made this, come to this conclusion because he saw, as a result of the evidence he heard, a deliberate, systematic and concerted attempt to lower the birth rate of the Uyghurs, and that Uyghur children would not be born as a result, that the future population of the Uyghurs will be smaller as a result.
Well, international pressure has ramped up over China's treatment of the Uyghurs. On Tuesday, the US announced a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. Many other countries have since followed. Let's speak to Howard Zhang, head of BBC Chinese. Howard, to what degree does this tribunal matter to the big heavyweights in Chinese politics?
Not that much. It will bring a certain level of international pressure, but I think now with COVID at home and still quite many areas locked down, this will be a secondary consideration. And also Xinjiang for them is the gateway to their flagship Belt and Road project. They want Xinjiang to be like Hong Kong to the financial world. Xinjiang will have to be the peaceful, controllable, 100% under control type of gateway. So that's the type of strategic decision they made to pacify Xinjiang, and whatever international pressure bring about would have little impact on that.
Would this tribunal be reported at all in Chinese media?
Yes. There are actually quite a bit of report, but of course it's in the perspective that this is a terrorist-sponsored, quote-unquote, and with Western anti-China forces behind the scene. It's a shambolic, phony, and PR stunt, and carries no moral authority. It's a fake tribunal. It's along that line, the coverage.
Is there any evidence the international pressure of recent years has impacted China's approach to the Uyghurs at all?
I think there's some anecdotal evidence when certain individual cases are brought up in international media and certain names are mentioned, apparently either the ones in jail mentioned or their relatives mentioned and received slightly better treatment afterwards when the highlights were on them. But in terms of for the overall situation, and that's up to the experts and people who actually who can have the access to those areas to actually determine.
Finally, Howard, help me understand this World Uyghur Congress. What kind of an organisation is that? How does it operate?
Well, it's a organization largely run by exiled Uyghurs who left Xinjiang, and it's been there for decades. And it's one of the largest groups of representatives overseas exiled diaspora Uyghurs. And the Chinese call them terrorist groups, and they're saying they're funded by all the anti-China forces. And of course, the Uyghur Congress saying they are a peaceful group. They want to bring autonomy and genuine human rights back to Xinjiang and stand up for the people of Uyghur and different groups there. And so we do have these two kind of quite contrasting arguments put in front of us.